Welcome to the Am I a Man Yet podcast, where we are discovering modern masculinity.
Hi, I'm Max.
And I'm Adam, and this is episode 1, and we're just to lay some framework for the future episodes, we're going to be referring to someone that we're going to call Mr. Dude. And so you could think of this person as that typical bro, and but just we don't want to say bro a ton because then that's going to start becoming the everyday language that we use, and we're not about that. So we want to refer to Mr. Dude though. This is that person that's probably, I don't know, 17, 18 to 20, late 20s.
Yeah, even 25.
Yeah, and so this person thinks that these defining characteristics of them makes them become a man, and we're referring throughout future episodes, we're going to be referring to Mr. Dude. That is who this podcast is for.
And then the way we'll set up our podcast, just so you kind of know what's coming each time, is we'll start off with a question that's going to drive our conversation, and then follow that up with a relevant example, whether that's from the news or book, an article, something that is relevant and shows, how this connects, and then continuing the conversation outside of the podcast, hopefully.
Yeah. So the question that we're wanting to kind of start off today with episode 1 is, what are the narratives between boys and men today? And for us to answer this question, we have to know where we're currently at. I think that's an important piece of it, is that for us to define the new narrative for being a boy or a man today, we need to know where we're at currently. And so we have a few lists of things. We're going to kind of take a backwards approach on this. And so we're going to look at what the new narrative is not, for us to define the new narrative for boys and men today. So something that doesn't define you as a man is that you can outlift the guy next to you.
Yeah, so I think this question, what is a man, came to me when I was teaching high school. I was teaching cultural geography, and this question came up, and so I had to start trying to have this conversation with boys and men, and it was really hard because stuff like this was what they were saying, and I'm like, well, no, that's not right. So just because you can outlift the guy at the gym doesn't make you a man. Working out is great, and putting in hard work and being the best in general is fine. But with this whole list, if you were thinking, or someone you know is thinking that this is the defining feature, this is what makes a man, then that's gonna be a red flag. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Someone that can outdrink his buddies. What's your response to that as defining for a man?
Yeah, I think this one falls in the same vein, because it's that I'm better than you. You're just choosing something that's more destructive, and so it's not. Again, it's like you're trying to prove. It's like all of these narratives of masculinity have to do with proving yourself, which I think is obscene, because as a quote unquote real man, right? Like, I don't need to prove myself to anybody. I'm sure in myself. And so I think with a lot of these comes this sense of insecurity or uncertainty with who I really am. And so I attach to one of these narratives, and that can be dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. And whenever we're even just talking about this list, I'm just thinking back to school for times I got made fun of. And it was mainly in the guys' locker room, was like I couldn't lift as much as the others. I didn't play football, so I'm surrounded with football guys, and all of a sudden I just felt pressure to perform like they did. And if I didn't, then it was like that was ammo for them to make fun of me, which then made me believe I had to be this way to be a man.
Right. Yeah. So you're getting these feelings of insecurity, but it's all based out of their own personal feelings of insecurity. Yeah. And as a boy, when I say boy, I'm probably just under 18. Yeah. Even younger though. I mean, you see it all the time.
Yep.
it's normal to be insecure, but we don't know what to do with that insecurity.
Yeah.
Right? Like, boys don't know how to be vulnerable, so I gotta make you look at something else. So we're gonna look at this kid instead of me.
Right.
Or something.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into the next one on the list for what we think that we have to be a man, is that we think that we have to be the loudest, strongest, and fastest.
Yeah, and again, I mean, all of these things are great. You know, put an asterisk next to out drinking your buddies. You know, but to be loud is great in certain circumstances.
Right.
And to be the strongest and the fastest, those are great attributes to have and strive for. But that's not what makes, again, that's just not what makes a man. And I think it's humans are not singular beings. And so it's easy for these narratives to become that singular, this is who I am. But you can be extremely strong and still not like have to be Mr. Dude bro about it. And that's fine. And that should be okay. But sometimes it seems like it's not.
Yeah. Yep. Before we even recorded this podcast, I had a conversation with the guy who I told him I was playing around with the idea of a podcast, and he's like, well, make sure if it's about masculinity, you need to make sure people know how to change a tire on a car. And so it's like we have this idea even that, okay, masculinity means that you know how to fix anything that's broken, like a car, your faucet at home, Mr. Fix It. What's your response to that for masculinity?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just these old leftover ideas from previous generations, and they just have not been updated. Yeah. And so, you know, like, listening to you say that, it reminded me of directions, right? Like the stereotypical, like this doesn't come up because all of our phones tell us how to get places now. That's but like true. In the old days, like the stereotype was the man doesn't stop and ask for questions, and they're lost for 3 hours, and the wife is just pull over, and you know, like that's like it's in media, and you know that was the stereotype, and it's a broken car is the same idea. As a father of 2 daughters, they're gonna know how to fix things, right? Like that's my goal anyway, that I will teach them, and they'll be confident in their abilities to change a car tire if it happens. Now, if they have a husband or a boyfriend that wants to fix the car tire for them, that's fine. But it shouldn't be, I think that's also damaging, and another whole topic, that women and girls shouldn't expect these things from true. Men and boys. You know, if they want to do them and they know how to do them, that's fine. And that's happy. But it shouldn't be some kind of expectation on but it's really hard. It's really hard. Like something broke in our house, and like this was one that I find myself falling into a lot, because like I don't want to call someone else. Yeah. And then my wife was like, "Why don't we just call someone?" I'm like, I just find myself being real, like, "No, I can do it," you know. And she's like, "Okay, but."
Yeah. Do you think I'm incapable?
Yeah. Like it does. Like it's like an attack on me, but really, like it's not, from her perspective, it's but for $100, you don't have to spend all that time on it. Yeah. It's not what you do. This person's going to come and fix it in 30 minutes. It's going to take you 3 hours, you know, and so...
Less frustration, less time, and it makes sense.
Yeah, and I find myself, and I've gotten better at it, but I do find myself a lot like, no, I can do it. Yeah. You know, like, but it's not an attack on me. It's just what it is. Yep.
Also, someone who's leading their company or business, we feel like that should be the man's role. The man in the house should be the lead. Top dog in their company or business.
I would say, I feel like of all of these so far, this is the one that I'm surprised hasn't changed more. Like in the high school, girls are like leading everything. Yeah. Like, so I'm like, what, like, you know, where is that disconnect? I feel like, you know, in college, they are the leaders of the organizations and stuff. But I do feel like this one is changing the most. I feel like, men, at least in my experience, I feel like men are becoming more okay with seeing this. Yeah. Now, I am not in a corporate world, so I could be way
same.
way off.
I have no idea, but I'm talking about. But we just
that is a stereotype. Like
Yeah.
you don't see Wolf of Wall Street would be a totally different movie if that was a woman. And I know that's based on a true story and stuff, but like if that was a woman, that'd be totally different. And I'm trying to think of a different role. Like,
well, just growing up, sitcoms that we watch on TV, Everybody Loves Raymond, King of Queens, all of this show, TV shows, so many more than that, but the TV shows, even like the guy's the one that works and the mom stays home and that type of thing. And it's like, we may not be in the corporate world, but that's just kind of what's portrayed outside of, just portrayed through TV. And
as a stay-at-home dad, it's funny. I get so much praise for it. Like, oh, that's amazing.
Yep.
You're amazing.
Yeah.
But if my wife was stay home, it'd be like, oh, that's just what you do.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't get praise for that. And we're doing the same thing, right? Like, we're both going to the grocery store and stuff. And I even had one woman at a grocery store say, oh, you must work nights. Like, because it couldn't, like, to her, like, it didn't even enter her mind that maybe I was...
Not even an option.
Right. Like, he just happens to work nights, and so he has the kids during the day right now.
Right.
So, some of these things, they are so ingrained that I don't think any boy or man, woman, anyone who thinks these things is thinking them explicitly.
Yeah.
Like, it's subconscious. It's not, I have to go out tonight and drink 3 liters of beer to prove to everyone I'm a man.
Right.
It doesn't, I don't think that's how it presents itself.
Yeah.
So.
Now, the next one is a little bit shift in topic a little bit, but the defining characteristic of a man, someone who never cries.
Yeah, right. So this is like the Marlboro Man, right? Like this, like Wyatt Earp, this emotionless, rough man that can show no vulnerability. And again, I think this comes back. I don't know where this came from, like where this idea comes from.
I mean, you see some dads with girls that are just totally uncomfortable with their girls crying, so they just stop crying. Or, even my dad, in some regard, was just kind of how it was. You stop crying.
Right.
You get over it because you're showing weakness. That you're not something so big of a deal to you that you just can't seem to control your emotions, and gets conveyed as that you're not strong.
Right. Yeah, and I think that this one's tough. Because listening to you say that, I tell my own kids that.
Yeah.
But I think it's more because the sound of crying is hard.
Yeah.
But
no one likes to listen to it.
No.
You don't like being around a person that just weeps. You would.
I try and tell my kids, if you need to cry, go upstairs. Like, if you need it, go do it.
Right.
But this idea that, I think this is a dangerous one though too, because this is where there is no release for that. So like emotion has to be released.
Yeah.
And so like crying is a release of emotion. And I think a very similar one to that would be anger. Yeah. Right? Like it turns to anger if it can't be released, and then that's a more uncontrollable one.
It's even more socially acceptable.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I mean, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like, you would get, so again, like thinking a high school scenario, a generic one, you would be better off to start a fight and be violent with somebody than to show crying or vulnerability.
Yeah. Some emotions are praised and others are shunned.
Right.
And anger for the man is just kind of it's just kind of accepted and applauded in certain situations. And that the next point kind of leads into this though. So someone who suppresses any emotion other than passion and anger in an effort to appear as if they're strong, tough, and confident. Yeah,
so I think I feel like we hit that one with the crying, because I feel like the anger is someone who just wants to cry but can't.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's just the next possible option for them.
Yeah. And so I don't know. Passion. I'm gonna let you speak to that one. What you were thinking?
Emotion with passion. I don't know. I think it kind of goes along with just somebody that's so incredible. I'm just gonna say passionate. I can't think of another word, but someone who's so passionate about something that they kind of forget social cues, or
right.
I think of, there was a time in college where we're on the intramural football field, and I have friends who stand up guys, and then all of a sudden their head gets in the game because they're so incredibly passionate to win that they kind of lose all sense of character, and we've seen this played out in football, on the NFL, just sports
right.
teams in general. You see someone so incredibly passionate about something that they kind of forget who they are,
right,
and what they stand for, and they just kind of lose their head as an athlete. And I think we've all seen.
That's for sure. And I mean, again, I'm extremely guilty of that one in my younger days.
I think we all, we all are. We get so.
And again, I don't think, like we've said for all of these things, they're not, in and of themselves, they're not bad. That's not bad to care so much about something. That you lose yourself a little bit, and it gets easier to not do as you get older. But if that is what it means to be a man, like I have to be the greatest no matter what, or something like that. Yeah. Then I think that's when it becomes a problem, and that's when the narrative becomes dangerous or unhelpful. So those are the narratives that we felt, if we were to put a poll out there, those are the narratives that we would get back from people. We've heard those things. We've been guilty of those things. Yeah. And so that's our list of what we're currently working with as men and boys as our narrative. Which one do we pick? Which one have you picked? And again, if that's the way that you're defining yourself, then that is where the red flag comes up, right? So I don't want you to hear us and be like, oh, you don't like people that work out at the gym. No, right? That's
all for it.
Yes, work out, keep it up. Yeah. But don't create your identity on that. Your identity as a man is not based on your ability to lift. So that's our list for the question this week, and then from here, hopefully we're gonna go into trying to discover, what is a narrative that does work. What does it look like to be a fully actualized boy and man in our modern world? Because it's definitely different. It's definitely different than it was even when we were kids, 20, 30 years ago. Yeah. And so parents are older than that, right? So that's who's still giving those narratives to their kids. And so that's the hard part. And that's what we're hoping to figure out in our series here. Yeah. All right. So then we also want to make sure that we have to show you guys that this is relevant, right? Like we didn't just think this up and it's, we're coming up with something brand new here. And so each week, each time, we will try to bring something in, whether that's a news article that relates to this, part of a book, an article, something that shows that other people are talking about this, somewhere where you can go and read some more. This time, I read an article from the New York Times by Michael Ian Black. And it's entitled "The Boys Are Not All Right." And this, I had to go back and reread this article again before our episode today. And the first thing I realized is that I completely missed that it came out right after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting. And that's what prompted him to write this article. But what I picked out of this article mostly was this idea that boys don't have a narrative anymore, and that the ones that we've talked about are the ones that they choose to create their identity around. And a big part from his article was that the last 50 years, girls and women have had these conversations about what it's like to be a girl, and the girl power movement and girls in STEM, and I think those are all fantastic. I have 2 girls, and so I want those movements to happen. But in doing that, the pendulum has swung very far, and so now it seems as though the boys are not all right.
Yeah.
And how do we start making social change and giving them the words to talk about it? Because I don't know that's that last point we talked about, showing emotion.
Yeah.
So boys and men don't even have the words to talk about it, or if they do have the words, they don't want to use them, because then that shows them as not masculine. And so now it's like this just vicious cycle that keeps them caught. And so it was a good read. The comments section is always fun, and and they do. And again, there was the comments were like there was no one who was just being trolly. Most of them were like insightful points so I always like to kind of go read the first few comments and get other perspectives on it. But a great read, and again, it really propelled my thought into this topic, because I never thought of it that before.
Cool. We'll post a link of that article in the show notes. There it is.
Everybody looks at them.
Right. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Am I a Man Yet? Let's just continue the conversation. And so you can follow us on social media at Am I a Man Yet on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can even email us at amiamanyet@gmail.com. And don't forget to share this, rate it with your friends, and just to rate it on iTunes. That helps us out a ton. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.